Hi everyone, I see we have gone live. Super excited to be here and share everything that I know that I have gotten since I started dabbling with freelancing and after. So, really excited to be here today. Thank you guys for having me. It is awesome. Thank you, Staff Chief. Thank you, everyone that helped to put this together. I guess we're gonna wait for just another like 5-ish minutes before we get started. Just want to ensure that everyone has time to log in and be here because this is going to be a super awesome presentation. Not just because I am presenting it, but also because I spent so much time thinking about it and I think about this particular topic a lot. So uh, I just hope I have compiled everything that I know into this presentation for you guys and super excited to present it. If you're just joining in, hi, welcome. My name is Vanshika. Super excited to be here. Just another 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to get started and dive into the depths of trust, customer relations, finding your first client, and everything that goes with it. While you're here and waiting, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to type them up. I really want this to be an interactive session as much as possible. So please feel free to type up whatever you have, any questions you have. And hopefully, as I go through, they get answered. If not, I will definitely answer them at the end of the session. It's so wonderful to see so many people here. I mean, it is just amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Means the world to me. Thank you so much. If you've just joined, please do ask any questions that are on the top of your head. Just feel free to type it in. Let's make this as interactive as possible. And you know, very open format because I think that would be the best for all of us to learn together. Hi everyone that's joined recently. So nice to have you guys with me today. This is going to be a super power packed action label, um, guiding sort of a presentation. And I think I've said it a couple of times. I'm really looking forward to the interaction part. So as you have questions, please feel free to type them up, send them over. I will definitely answer all of them slash as many of them as I can. All right, let's get started. I see that a couple of you have joined, so let's get started and kick off this presentation. All right, as you guys already know, this is the topic, this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about everything related to finding the right clients, building trust, building long lasting relationships, and not just transactional relationships. So I'm super excited. Let me just quickly fix this. I don't know why it's not. Let me just try this again. Give me one quick second. Hopefully this works. All right, awesome. I think it's working now. So cool. Okay, awesome to have you guys here. Wonderful. Let's get started. So, just a little bit about me. Just a quick snippet about. Oh, the presentation hasn't loaded. Okay, give it. I'm gonna give it a quick minute for it to load. I think there's some issue with the loading. Can you guys see my presentation? Just let me know. Give it maybe a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'm just gonna try loading it again. I think there is some issue with the presentation. Give me a quick second. Right. I reloaded it, so just quickly let me know if you can see it. Sorry about that. I think there is some issue with the presentation loading, so I'm gonna try third time, hopefully third time lucky. That is the goal. Hopefully this works. Let me know if you can see this one. I tried loading it a different way, so let me know if this is working. Awesome. Okay, third time lucky. Yay! Good things come with time. As you can tell, I'm super hyped about this presentation. Super hyped. That third time lucky. Let's get started. This is going to be nothing but awesome. All right, so quick stuff about me, just so you guys know who I am and a little bit of a background. So I contemplated about going freelance in 2019 is when I picked up my first gigs. And 2019 November, I left corporate. 2020 Jan, I was like, this is it. I am going to go and do it. I have decided this is it. This is for me. And 2020 Jan is over. We're in June now. Touch wood, all is awesome. I think I made the best decision of my life. I think this was what I was meant to do. And I think I've found this one thing that makes me really happy. So, what do I do for work? I basically am a brand storyteller, communication specialist, work within branding. In short, what I do is basically I help emerging and high growth startups with everything in relation to communication and branding, be it from their website content to if they're doing a PR campaign to an influencer campaign to anything. And I've worked all across all sort of domains. I've worked in fintech, SaaS, edtech, name it, hospitality, name it, and I've done it. I have been picking up some really cool projects, and I'm really excited about the kind of work that I do because it really means a lot to me. My LinkedIn journey started back in 2017. I graduated from Northeastern in 2016 December, which is in Boston. I did my undergrad. I studied marketing and management. And so far, I mean, I have been fairly regular. I have really focused on community building, which is also one of the major reasons why I had the confidence to quit corporate and move on and do better, do bigger. I know that there was a ton of potential just lying on my LinkedIn, and I just needed to kind of go there and grab it. So as of today, we're a community of 35,000, and I couldn't be more ecstatic, so happy. And I mean, the community is literally what made me take this jump and be confident that I can make it. And ever since then, since I jumped independent in Jan, it has been nothing but awesome. Fun fact about me, I really don't like reading books. Not a book person. Used to do it when I was a kid. My mom and dad really encouraged it, and over time, unfortunately, I just let go. But hey, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I prefer conversations. I rather just call up someone and be like, hey, I'm stuck here. How can you help me? And I YouTube a lot. I'm excessively on YouTube and podcasting channels. So I think that's where I get the wealth of my information, and whether it is upskilling, learning, connecting, those are my go-to channels. So let's just quickly talk about fun facts about the gig economy, because I know a lot of us may be new. I mean, and this topic is geared towards the people who are maybe thinking of taking that decision or have taken it but are still maybe stuck or not being able to live their best life. So just for some fun facts that I found, this is from a report by Pioneer. It was a 2020 freelancer income report. Um, I think the coolest thing is that the younglings are really killing it in freelance. If you think you're too young or too old, I mean, I don't think age is a barrier at all. But a lot of younglings, like just like my age and my age bracket, are killing it. It's the study itself said that those who work exclusively as a freelancer earn more, as well as are more satisfied with their life. And I think that is really cool because there's a very big difference in the way you work when you are freelancing and when you're in a full-time job. So I totally relate to it because I've been on both sides. And then the next one, which I thought was really cool and one that I think I have ignored personally, is Facebook. As you can see on the right hand side, it does show us information that Facebook is apparently the leading channel for freelancers to kind of get gigs and connect and promote themselves. So recently, I have started getting on Facebook. I've been joining Facebook groups. LinkedIn has always been my backbone, and I just started an Instagram as well a couple of months ago. You can find the Instagram handle down there. Um, the way that I have split it up. So on LinkedIn, I talk a lot about the theory and my life and a lot about the work that I do. And on Instagram, if you go there, you'll be able to see a lot more in terms of branding, storytelling, and the kind of work, but much more actionable kind of tips related and stuff. Not that I don't do it on LinkedIn, it's just a different format which I've intentionally chosen. But if you're not on Facebook already, this was a hint that you should start getting on Facebook. I neglected it, and now I am starting to kind of pick up on that channel again. So I think, I mean, first of all of us have different motivations behind why we quit corporate and move independent. The answers could be anything. It could be, I've heard of people saying, I don't like, the fact that I have to report to someone. I want independence. People quit because they want more money. People quit because they want to, do different kinds of jobs or different kinds of roles. I've also heard of older freelancers quitting because they're unable to find, or maybe pick up freelance actually, because they're not able to find a job in the job market, but are willing to spend that time of their day to freelance. So, everybody's motivations are different, but at the end of the day, I mean, there are a couple of things which you just must absolutely have. I would suggest, if you're trying to get on with it on the right footing, do take a note of these because they'll help you a lot. The first thing is a passion, right? The reason that you freelance or want to freelance or not be in an office space is because you're passionate about something that maybe you're not being able to get in corporate, or are missing, or just aren't able to find the like perfect match, like I would think a very few number of people are actually able to find that match between their passions and what they do for work. So, freelance gives you that opportunity. So I think, just take it and go with it. Figure out what you're really passionate about. It could be anything. It could be writing, it could be editing, it could be making videos, it could be talking about the environment. Freelance as an industry in the gig economy allows you to do so many different things that if you're passionate about it, there will be a need for it and there will be a community for it. You're not the first person who's passionate about X thing. So that should serve as some sort of security to you. The second thing I would say, before you start, you must have a personal brand. Um, it is super hard to a market yourself and b also find clients and gigs and get onto that. Like, doing both of these in tandem can be extremely stressful, which is why I would say, if you're thinking of freelancing, maybe you maybe haven't worked for a while, or you are thinking of quitting, or you are starting afresh and don't want to go to corporate and just want to freelance. Spend time building your personal brand. I'll go into that part a little later, but I'm telling you, it's extremely hard. Like, even I till today, not I don't struggle with it, but it's extremely hard to be a finishing client deadlines and be like, hey, I need to do something on my personal brand. So we'll dive into that a little later, but just a heads up. The next thing you absolutely need before you start is a portfolio or a showcase of work. I can't specify to you exactly what that is. It could mean a Google Drive with, like, the images you've taken of your wildlife safaris, or it could be that, you have a dribble board and you put up your, designs over there. It could be that you like writing journals, and so you need to have all of this stuff that you like doing or are passionate about in one place. So basically portfolio, but if you're to think of it broader, think of like what your passion is and then tie it back and figure out how to compile it all together. That will be super helpful if you do it before you like decide to jump freelancing, because the longer you take to do this particular task, the longer you're delaying the time till you can get your first client. And the next thing I think all of us should do, and I've seen successful freelancers do, is to have a goal to work towards. It could either be money, it could be domain, it could be, I want to do 200 websites, it could be anything. But you need to have a goal, because otherwise, every day can become very redundant and monotonous. Like, if you don't have something motivating you to do what you need to do, get out of bed, work 9 to 9. I mean, I'm telling you, a freelancer's life is not 9 to 5 by any means. So you need to have that goal, whatever it is. It could be like, I want to own a house in 20 years, whatever it is. Figure out that goal for yourself, because that is what will keep you motivated. That is what will get you out of your bed in the morning. So definitely figure that part out. So obviously I've told you what you need. Now the question which I thought over a lot is, why do I need these things? I mean, some of them are obviously obvious, but let's just quickly dive into it. The first one, like, why do you need all of this? To give work a sense of meaning. See, there's a big difference between doing work and doing meaningful work. Ideally, if you are freelancing, you should be doing meaningful work. That means that A, it's something you're passionate about, B, it's something where you feel your skills are absolutely in line with it. And C, it could even just be like, hey, I find this really easy. And so I like doing it. And that's what it is to me. I get really happy when I do X. So I think when you have all of these, it gives you a sense of why you're doing what you're doing. The second thing is to showcase your strengths. Obviously, a portfolio is very much targeted to that. Also, when you actually put your portfolio together and you get into that process, you yourself will actually discover what your strengths are. Say for example, like I'm in comms, I can work across like 15 different deliverables, but are 15 of them my strengths? The answer is probably not, which is why I said start building your portfolio before you decide to quit. Because when you do that, you will initially figure out the things that you're good at, things that you can prove that you are good at. And along with that, will be able to get you work. So you basically showcase your strengths to get work, which is why you should probably do it before you jump freelance. Um, the third one is building trust, which is why we have this presentation today as well. But everything you do, right, the more you question yourself, the more you introspect, the more you think about freelance is not just the freedom part of it, but the work part of it as well. You'll feel that sense of meaning. You'll get the sense of like why this means so much to you, and it also helps you build trust because you've thought about these things. Like I really tell everybody, like, don't quit your job till you have a plan in mind. That is probably the biggest mistake you can make, is to quit without having a plan. So yeah, do all of these things. It'll help you build trust in yourself and as well as build trust with your clients. And the last one goes back to the last point that I made was, when you're freelancing, you're on your own. It's very, very hard to find like someone to wake you up in the morning to be like, hey, you know what, today you need to do this, or hey, you know what, like this is wrong, fix this. Like, nobody's gonna tell you that. You have to want to be better. And the only way to be better and do better is to have goals. Have a vision board, have some goals, have some short-term goals, long-term goals. It'll motivate you to do better work. It'll motivate you to be better as a whole, as a human. And then the last one, obviously, if you put all of this together, with the what you need and the why you need it, you'll obviously, definitely, hopefully find the formula to success, if that is what you want to call it. But it'll basically enable you to set the platform right for you to kind of jump off. So, I mean, I deleted and rewrote this slide I don't know how many times, but when I really thought about it, and when I questioned myself, like, why did I take the decision to work independently? It's been 6 months now. Like, why did I decide to do it? The bottom line and the answer that came to me, and which is why I find meaning in work, is that I can do a lot more stuff and across a lot more domains. When I thought about it, I think when you're in corporate, there is definitely a sort of limit to the kind of work you can do, right? It depends on the kind of company. So, if you're working in TapChief, you'll be working around freelancers, remote working, gig working, and you're in that kind of bubble based on the company and the domain and the industry, right? But when you jump freelance, you definitely have the ability to not be stuck. You can pick as many different kinds of deliverables, as many different kinds of industries. Uh, think of emerging stuff like blockchain and whatever the cool stuff. There are not many like actual real companies even doing it. So maybe if you freelance and you're passionate about it, you would be able to kind of get into that industry and provide value, learnings, and your expertise in that. So everybody's reason is going to be different. This was just mine, and I felt like I needed to share it with you guys today. Um, so the how. This is basically the how of like, how do you find your first clients, right? So I've talked a lot about the passion part of it. I think that is the biggest element to freelancing. If you're not passionate about what you do, just don't do it. Like it wouldn't make sense for you to do it. Like you would just, your work would just be work and not meaningful work, which I don't think anybody should do ideally. So basically, when you think of the passion, right? Like how do you define a passion? How do you define like, okay, this is what I want to freelance in? So first of all, think of things that you're good at. Is it talking to people? Is it project management? Is it doing Excel sheets? Is it big sums of data? Figure out what you're good at. Second, I think I talked about this already, which is like figure out the thing that gives you meaning. Figure out the thing that makes you happy at the end of the day, being like, oh wow, like I did this. My name is behind this deliverable. Think of that. That will, help you find your passion as well. Um, the third one is actually the easiest, is find things that other people say you're good at. So, if you were working corporate, now jumping freelance, and you always, maybe heard your boss saying like, you're so fast with writing up press releases. Why don't you like do more of it? Maybe you're just good at it. So keep your ears out, actively listen to what people are saying about you. That is definitely one of the ways to figure out like, okay, I am good at this and people know it. So it's probably something that I should be doing. And the last one, and I think I also talked about this a little bit, was that, find something that leads you to your bigger goals. Like, I do, like, try and fill up this sentence. I do X because of Y. So, like, I like doing branding activities because it allows me to experiment and, really be creative. Therefore, I am passionate about it. So, kind of fill up that sentence for yourself. It's going to be different for everybody, obviously. So that is basically how you find your passion, which is, I think, the biggest question that everybody needs to answer, needs to have an answer for, actually. If you can't figure out what you're passionate about, you're not going to be able to turn work into meaningful work. So the biggest question between passion and finding your niche is like, how do you know that like this thing that I really like will, be what I want to do or should do or, want to specialize in? The answer is really simple. If you're good at something and people tell you that you're good at it, and you just know that you are super efficient in it, you're interested in it, it gives you meaning, and someone's ready to pay you for it, that's probably your niche. That's probably your happiest spot. If your passions mix with your niche is when you find meaningful or purposeful work, I would say. So it's very simple. I mean, a lot of people stress over finding the niche. Like, oh my God, like I need to be the best website landing page writer. Okay, cool. Are you passionate about it? Okay, yes. Does it make me happy? Yes. Do I find pleasure in doing it? Am I really good at it? Do I stress about it? Start asking yourself these questions and tie it to a goal, and then if someone is ready to pay you for it, go for it. That is how you find your niche, in short. I could give you an entire 1 hour on this particular topic itself, but for the sake of time, let's move on. So your clients are everywhere, right? Like they're every single place you can think of. They are on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on Telegram, they're on WhatsApp, they're on LinkedIn. Um, at the end of the day, you are one person, right? Like you possibly can't be working and prospecting and closing clients and. You only have X number of hours in a day. So I kind of made it a little bit easier for you. So what I did was, according to me, again, this is just for me, but obviously if you build your chart of time versus effort, and then figure out where or what platforms your clients are on or what medium you can reach your clients, and put it on that X to Y axis of like how much time does it take me and how much effort does it actually take. So, for example, if you see on the top left, there's outbound outreach. Why is that so time taking? It's because you actually need to spend a lot of time researching. You need to spend a lot of time figuring out where the gaps are. When you're doing outbound, you're sort of saying, like, hey, I see this problem, therefore I can fix it or make it better. So you spend a lot of time doing it. The effort is maybe not that much. Like, you don't really have to like sit for days and days and days and do it. It could be maybe just done over a couple of hours. But it's just very time taking, and you have to then compile it into an email, which is fairly straightforward. I'm sure all of us know how to write emails, and send it over. So that is not the time taking part. The time taking part is the research. However, if you see on the right hand side, you see networking events. They're not that time taking, but they take a lot of effort. And the reason that I say networking events, like obviously now we're moved to virtual, are extremely high on effort is because like the famous saying goes, your first impression is your last impression. Second thing is, if you're going for a networking event, you should ideally research, if you can find a guest list or find people that are going for this event, look them up on LinkedIn before you go, know what to say to these people at the event. How do you shake hands? Are you making visual contact? Are you confident? Are you talking a language? Are you boring them? It's a lot of effort. I mean, virtually as well as physically, networking events, if you're there to really find clients, it can be extremely stressful, and it's not a leisure activity. Like, a strategic networker goes into every networking event planned. Does that mean you print out like a brochure of your services? Sure. Does that mean you know how to give an elevator pitch in a minute? Yes, absolutely. So this is just like my take on what the time and effort is, because at the end of the day, time is money, and there's only so much time that we all have. I mean, we all have the same amount of time. So when you put it on that axis, it really gives you a perspective of like, where can I use the least amount of effort and get the most like ROI. So for example, on the left hand side, if you see the first and second contacts, these are people who you might have worked with in the past. Like, reach out to your family, reach out to your connections, reach out to people who who are companies that are hiring. Reach out to your aunt. Actually, I got a deal from someone that I met at a family party, just because we started talking. She's like, oh, what do you do, blah blah blah, like, I want to redo my website, I'm not sure. And I actually helped her, so I got a freelance deal at a brunch party or something a couple of months ago. So it's not possible. I'm telling you, you have to think of everything in big picture. But again, remember, you only have a limited amount of time, right? And your clients are everywhere. So that's just my take on that particular topic. Oops, wait, sorry, what did I do? Oh no, okay, there we go. So here's the thing, right? You're going to get really excited in the beginning. You're going to be super excited about closing that deal. You're going to be like Wolf of Wall Street. You're going to be super excited. You're going to throw a party every time you close a deal. You're going to like go tell all your friends and family, like, guess what? I just, closed a 2 lakh deal, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be really excited, which is great. But in that excitement, remember that like not every person you prospect is a client, right? You have to value your time. You have to value the knowledge you bring to the table. You have to value you as a, to kind of put it in terms of it, like, you're not a pack of chips. Like, you are that like super expensive chocolate that is only available at duty free, right? So don't think that everybody you talk to should be a client, and also don't try and close every client. You need to be able to set boundaries for yourself. You need to learn the art of saying no. I still struggle with it. You need to again go back and really think of, is this project going to help my portfolio? Is it going to help my passion? Is it going to help me get other clients? You need to build up a sort of system where you are okay with saying no. I know this might sound really harsh because at the end of the day, we love closing. We love that rush. We love that energy. But if it's not contributing to you, it's not contributing to your portfolio, it's not contributing to your passion, it'll again turn into work. And I keep stressing the fact that it should be meaningful work, because I made this mistake when I started. I mean, obviously, like we all make mistakes, that's how we learn, right? So I just kind of picked up clients as it went through. I even picked up a client for writing e-commerce descriptions for their website. Like, think about that project and then think about whatever you know about me. I'm pretty sure there is no overlap because I know how much I struggle to write those descriptions. Like, I just would not be able to. I'm like, this is so boring. There were like 300 of them. And I just took it up because I was like, oh my God, it's money. It's my first client. And whatever, amongst the first ones. And I was super excited. But surely that was a wrong decision. I struggled. I will probably never pick up those kind of projects again. So I think, me telling you this now should hopefully serve as some advice or gyan or whatever you want to call it, because don't make that mistake, because it just becomes work. Like I keep saying, work is not always fun per se. All right, so now we've come to the fun part of like, how do you approach your clients? Okay, you figured out, say for example, your top three channels are Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I mean, I don't know, whatever it is, right? Maybe you're a pro networker and it's in-person virtual meetings, whatever it is. Pick your top three, and so now you're on that platform, you've built a brand. What do you do next? So I've kind of listed down three things that you need to learn from them and three things you need to ask. So learn the art of small talk. I think, as much as it's stupid as it sounds, if you can have a casual conversation with your client, it'll be super easy to work with them. And what I mean by small talk is not how is the weather. Oh, like I see that, there's rain in Bombay. Like, that's just boring stuff. Go to their LinkedIn, go to their Twitter, read some of the stuff that they're posting, read about their industry, read about maybe some news has come up about their industry. For example, like if you're working with a tech client and, for example, you saw that there was some report that, tech in India is going to boom by 500% in the next X number of years. Hopefully that happens. But if it does happen, and use that as a conversation starter. Pick it up and say, hey, I was reading about the industry and I saw XYZ. What are your thoughts? And then just leave it to them. Let them talk. I mean, I think let them talk is the easiest way to get information out of them. So let them talk, and just, yeah, bring up topics that are relevant to them, not just like how's the weather and oh, it's raining. And don't do that. That is not going to get you anywhere. um, the second thing, which I also just kind of talked about in brief right now, is to learn to research them. Don't stalk. I mean, I know there's a very fine line between researching someone and stalking someone, but basically what I'm trying to say is really learn about them, get into their shoes, talk about their struggles, talk about the things that they may be going through. Be empathetic, and these are all ways to kind of build trust with your client, as obviously the topic is. When you research them, you'll not only find things that they are passionate about talking, but you'll also be able to kind of build that relatability with them. You're like, hey, you are next industry and I also blah 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 blah. And it's a snowball effect. So learn things about them, bring up things like, maybe research showed you that they were in the soccer team at their college, and you are interested in soccer. Maybe you can have that conversation, but that link you'll only find if you spend time doing the research. You won't just find it or stumble upon it. The next one, which is super important, is learn their expectations and goals from you. Ask the right questions, which also kind of ties into the next point, is really get to the root of it. Like, say for example you've been hired out to do a say an Instagram handle, and they want to give you social media management as a project, right? Ask the question like, why are you doing this? What is the bigger goal? uh, why does social media matter to you? What kind of a community are you trying to build on social? Ask the right questions and then learn what their goals and missions and expectations are from you, because that will help you set expectations. And I think that's also another topic that I can start talking about for another hour. But expectation setting in terms of what the client wants you to actually do versus what you understand, they both need to be on the same level. Like social media for them might just not be just content, right? Maybe they're trying to build a community of people who understand the allergies of peanuts, right? Then the content itself turns into so much more, which you will also only find out when you do ask the right questions. Then, when we move to the right hand side, which is about asking open ended questions, these are basically really important to get your client talking. The reason why I say open ended is because when you try and put a perception or a thought into their head, don't leave it closed, because then the answer will come yes or no. When you leave it open, you will actually have that conversation, which again goes to build trust and relatability and likability and all of those different things. Ask how they found you. I think that is a really interesting question, specifically when you go back to the time and effort graph and you say, for example, like Instagram, say, for example, for me is low time but high effort. And if someone finds me on Instagram, then I know how to react to them. And I'd be like, oh, by the way, did you see this post? Or, oh, by the way, what did you like? Or, oh, is this why you want me to handle your Instagram? So basically, when you do that whole exercise of time versus effort, and then you ask them how they found you, that would really kind of tie it in together, and then you'd know how to take the conversation forward. And the next thing that you must ask, which I also forgot to ask initially, and now I've learned, is, hey, what's your process like? What's your team like? Do you have people that will support me? What are the deadlines? What kind of things are we working towards? Ask these questions because they will help you understand a lot more than just like, hey, write a blog for 800 words. It's not just a blog for them, maybe. And that you'll only find out when you actually take all of this into consideration. I know I've been talking a lot, so if you have any questions, please drop them into the question thing into the chat, and I will be super happy to answer all of them because I know you guys probably have a couple of questions. So going back to the slide, right? Like of not everybody you prospect is a client, and working with a client, right, is equally them working with you and you working with them. It's just like finding a job. It's like you need to like them as much as they need to like you, and vice versa, right? So I think these are the four super important questions that you need to ask your client to figure out if it's a fit for you. These are like what you answer at the end of an interview, where they're like, do you have any questions for me? But these, in when you're freelancing, you have to be pushy and ask these questions. So the first easiest question you can ask is, what role do I play? The answer that they'll give you will hopefully answer how important are you to this project. If the role, and if they just say like, oh, like your role is just to write social media content, then you know how important you are. If your role is hey, you need to build a community and this is why we're hiring you, then you definitely go up on the importance scale. I see some questions coming in. Just let me finish this slide and then I will take all of those questions before we move on. The next one is, what is the project goal? Where will your work, where your work will impact? When you ask that open-ended question of like, what's the bigger picture? What's the goal? How would my work be shown? Where would my work be shown? That also goes into showing you the impact that your work will have, right? So ask these questions. I think don't forget that it's as much of an interview of them as much as it is for you. ask them if you've hired a freelancer before, because the way you work with someone who's sitting in an office 9 to 5 versus someone who's part-time versus someone who's working freelance is super different. And if the answer is no, I would really think of taking on that client, because unless you're awesome at setting expectations, the only reason is that most freelancers, at least from what I know and the way that I work, I am extremely deadline oriented. I'm I try and get my deliverables out as soon as possible, but at the same time, if I'm working with multiple clients, then if you've told me Sunday is the deadline at noon, you will get it by Sunday noon. I might not be able to send it to you Saturday night. And these minor things really matter when you're working with a client, because it all affects your trust at the end of the day. That's really what happens. What is the budget allotted? If you're not asking this question, you are, I'm sorry to say, but nothing but stupid. Always ask this question. Don't put this answer in their mouth. Clients love it when you say like, oh, you need a website. Cool. It's anywhere from 50,000 to 3 lakhs. Cool, okay. But if you ask them, maybe they might have had a budget of 4 lakhs, but you'll never know because you shortcut yourself. So always ask this question before they tell you or you tell them actually what the budget is. The only reason I say it is because you never know how much money someone has in their pocket, and allotted to the project. So I'm not saying to be like that person who's money minded and money focused. That's not the goal. It's just to understand how much does the client value you, your effort, and everything that you bring to the table. So now I'm quickly going to jump into the questions. I know we've got a couple of them. Just give me a quick second. I'm going to pause the presentation and just go into answering the questions. Just give me one quick second. To just figure out how to get these questions to show up. One second, hold on. Wait, maybe I need to stop. Oh no, wait, here it is. Okay, cool. Okay, wow, we have a lot of questions. Okay, how to evaluate if a client is going to be a good one? Ask yourself those questions. Again, it's as much as you interviewing them as they interviewing you. If you see any red flags, know that this is not the client for you. The reason I say that is because red flags are super super obvious. If your client's like, oh, send me like 50,000 samples, red flag. If your client says, do the work and I'll pay you the money later, unless you have some 100% surety and like some escrow XYZ, I don't even know, don't do it. These are all red flags. So watch out for red flags. If your client isn't giving you any of them, that's a good sign. Take on that client. So ask as many questions as you can while you are evaluating them as much as they are evaluating you. Scope of content writing, how does this market work? So content writing as an industry is really huge. Like it's huge in terms of the kinds of deliverables, the kind of writing, and the kind of clients you get. So you could be a copywriter, you could be a film writer, you could be a blog writer, you could be an email writer. There's so many different kinds of things, which goes back into the slide that I was talking about finding your passion and your niche and finding things that you like doing, and then people will pay you for it. When you find that, I mean, you will find the industry or the niche that you should be in. So definitely keep that in mind. What is your role altogether, and how can I get into brand storytelling? I can answer that really short. So basically, my role is to work with brands, not on one deliverable kind of things, but a long-term strategy where everything that they are putting out into the media, on their social media, on whatever, speaks the same language and talks about them in a manner that they should be talked about. And when I say that I'm a storyteller, there's a lot of science behind storytelling and a lot of reading and research that I have done behind it. So storyteller sounds like a really fancy word, but behind it, you need to really understand how people understand stories, how to tell stories, how to narrate stories, how to put out your story across formats. Obviously, this is a conversation that can go on forever, so I'm just going to skip, but please feel free to reach out to me. How can you distinguish between an authentic personal brand versus one that isn't? It's something that I hesitate to do. So the difference between an authentic brand and someone who you know is looking a little fishy uh, is how much of the content can you relate if you put yourself in their shoes. If you read their content and it feels like someone else is doing it or someone else is writing it, or that it seems like a third person saying it, then that's not an authentic brand at all. When someone thinks of your brand online, right, they should feel like it's you talking. When you go on my LinkedIn, you should feel like it's me talking to you the same way that I'm talking to you right now. Another way to really figure out about authenticity is to get on a call with them. Say, hey, I want to ask you 10 questions. Can you please pick up the phone and like, I need to learn about storytelling or whatever, frame it nicer. But if they're unable to answer those questions on the phone, but they claim to be something, then that's where you know there's a big gap between authentic and not an authentic personal brand. I'm going to take one last question before I move on. How do you think LinkedIn is the next big thing? I think LinkedIn is the next big thing because by default, everybody that's in a job is on LinkedIn. When someone is in a job and they're, say, director of marketing or whatever, and they're looking out for freelancers, the first place they're going to go and post is probably LinkedIn, and then AngelList, and then. Also, the reason why I think LinkedIn is the next big thing is because it's becoming so much more friendly in terms of displaying your work, displaying your professional accomplishments, displaying all the wonderful things that you've done. So it really acts as a virtual resume, which I think no other channel does. Because like when you think Behance, like you will go there and you'll only be able to see the work that this person has done. Say you go to, XYZ channel, like you say maybe you're on Instagram. You can't really put everything on Instagram, right? You still need to know, like maybe someone needs to know, like how many years has this person been a storyteller? That answer may not be answered on your LinkedIn or your Instagram, sorry, not LinkedIn. So I think it's super important just because of the fact that it's a virtual resume and it allows you to kind of display everything about yourself, which really paints a holistic picture for everybody that is going to be reading it. I do see three more questions, but I'm going to take it right after my presentation. I just want to quickly run through it because I'm really excited and I don't want us to run out of time. That is, I think, the major part of it. Cool. So I started it again. You should be able to see. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see it. That would be awesome. Can you see the presentation? Yes? No? Yes? Okay, cool. Awesome. So let's move on. So I think I've given you a lot of information and a lot of lovely things and a lot of things that you need to remember. Uh, I believe a lot in the power of affirmations, and especially when you're freelancing, it's if you're one person army. You really need to kind of build yourself up. You need to build your confidence up every single day. I do it on Mondays. I actually started this very recently, where I started doing Monday affirmations on LinkedIn. But that being said, I do it a lot to myself anyway. When I'm like walking around the house, I'm like, I am bloody awesome. I am so cool. Like I I should be paid $1 million. Like I think when you start saying these things to yourself, it really helps you build that confidence that you need to get on that next phone call, attack the next client, pitch for the next big thing. Um, so I think these are the three affirmations that really, that stick out to me. Obviously, you have to build your own. But these are the ones that I think I mostly keep repeating to myself over and over and over is I am capable, I am knowledgeable, and I am a problem solver. For you, these might be different. So I really recommend, if you're freelancing and, life is just constantly a hustle and a bustle, like take some time to yourself, figure out these affirmations, say them to yourself regularly. You'll not only feel positive, you also build your confidence in whatever, you are trying to do. If you're the best web developer, write it. Say, I am the best web developer because XYZ. Build up these affirmations for yourself. They'll really, really help you. And confidence is a really big part in building trust with your clients. So let's move on. So when we did that time versus effort, right? Some of the channels were inbound, some of them were outbound. What is the difference? Inbound is where someone reaches out to you and says, hey, Vanshika, I want you to work on our XYZ because I saw you did XYZ and blah, 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 blah. That's an inbound lead. Outbound is the one that was right on the top. It was like the highest time and the least effort. But that is when you actually have to reach out to people and say, hey, I looked at your website, I know how to optimize it, it's not correctly optimized on WordPress. The difference in an inbound and an outbound is the trust. Why? The simple answer is that when it's inbound, this person has most likely researched you. They've checked out your Instagram, they've checked out your LinkedIn, they've checked out your portfolio. They might have gotten a referral from someone. Obviously, you'll never know till you ask, which is why I go back to the point of definitely asking, how did you find me? Versus in an outbound, right? You are just vanshika@gmail.com, right? This person receiving your email has no clue who you are. And therefore, mostly when you outbound, it's mostly to say, hey, I know you messed up somewhere. Let me help you fix it. So building trust in an outbound is hard and a must do, but they're more likely to trust you when it's an inbound. And inbound is either through a referral, through word of mouth, through someone who's on your LinkedIn, someone who's maybe on your Instagram and sends you a DM and says, hey, I love the work you're doing. Can you do it for us? There's already a lot of implicit trust in an inbound. 100%. If you split up the two, 100% the inbound person is more willing to put down their money than an outbound person. It's going to take you much longer to actually close this person as well, just for the simple fact that they don't know you, they don't trust you. And some of them may not even be that okay with receiving criticism. So just know the difference, because at the end of the day, you need to have both working for you. You can't be just inbound or just outbound. Ideally, you should be stronger in inbound and maybe get a lot more inbounds than you reaching out. To get to this point will take you time, but it is so worth it. It is so worth it. So that's just my quick point about inbound versus outbound. Trust, right? It's an intangible thing. And I really thought about it, and I was like, how do I calculate the ROI? Like, how do I calculate that this person who's come inbound to me trust me? Like, how do I know that this person has implicit trust in me or not? And so when you calculate the ROI, which is like the return on investment in whatever you've done, say you've been building your personal brand. So for example, let's take my instance, right? I have been building my LinkedIn since 2017. This was way before I even decided to freelance. Today, when you go to my LinkedIn, it is packed. It is filled with information, right? And the ROI of that being there before I jumped freelance is A, that I get clients. B, it's much easier to convince them. C, 100%, almost 100%, if not 99% of my current business is through LinkedIn. That being said, I do reach out to people. I'm not saying I don't do outbound. I also get a lot of inbound. So there's a there's a happy balance between the two. I mean, it's not like one is higher than the other, but I definitely prefer an inbound than an outbound. So the ROI, the way that I figured I could calculate it, is the customer lifetime value. What is it? It's very simple. It's basically saying that, like, this particular client, right? If you've built trust and built a relationship with them, they are not going to give you just one time business. They'll give you repeated business, most commonly known as retainer clients. Extremely hard to find. They're like a needle in a haystack. But when you find them and they trust you, I mean, there is no reason for your contract to not span over 6, 7 months. Coincidentally, I just realized yesterday that one of my clients that I'm actually still working on was one of my first clients that I talked to in the second week of January. So he's been with me for like the last 6 months, and the simple formula to calculate this customer lifetime value would be the revenue that you get, whatever that X amount is, into the number of transactions, which is whatever how many ever times this person pays you, into the retention period. So like, is this client with you for 1 year? Is this client with you for 10 years? It all kind of adds up into the customer lifetime value. And a lot of it, when you calculate this customer lifetime value, you're actually calculating how much does this person trust me. If this person didn't trust you, they would not give you business. I know this is a really complicated formula, so feel free to ask any questions. We'll be happy to answer them. So when you are, building trust and stuff, right? Two important things that you need to do yourself with your clients, either or, there's no hard and fast rule, is to celebrate small wins. A lot of times we bog ourselves down with celebrating the big stuff, like, oh my God, we launched this huge campaign. But before that campaign, right, like 10 other things happened. You got your creatives ready, you got your content ready, you found a digital marketing person, XYZ. Celebrate these small wins, especially with your client, because not only does that iterate that you are doing good work, not only does it iterate that they should trust you more, what it also says is that, hey, listen, we've come so far from where we started. We're not at the same place where we started. We've moved on. We've become so much better. Our relationship has become better. So celebrate these things. I think it's definitely something you should do, and a lot of us forget. And the second thing is, when you celebrate these wins with your clients and have these open conversations, it really changes your perspective on the work that you're doing. Because, like, the other day, I wrote this article for a client about coronavirus and their industry. And the client actually called me back and said, like, oh, wow, like your writing has really improved in the last year. So this is like an off and on client, but like we've been working together for over a year. So um, he called me and he said that, and I was super happy because I was like, wow, someone really appreciates the work that I'm doing, even that he's not, even if he's not a client that like sort of is on a recurring basis, like it's a one-off client, but we have that much trust between us that if he needs something, he will come to me, and he knows that I will be able to deliver. So it kind of changes your mindset, makes you happy, not just for the short term, but also in the long term. Another way to kind of calculate the trust, right? If you're to really think about like, how do I build trust? What all do I need to do to build trust? How do I build this trustworthiness, right? It's a simple formula of like how much you communicate with your client. I think I've said this over and over again. Like, communicate, ask the right questions, ask open-ended questions, get into their shoes, understand their goals, understand their business. It's not just the project, it's not just a blog, it's not just a website. There's always something higher and bigger than that. The second is reliability. So, like, how do you build trust? By being reliable, by answering your text, replying to your phone calls, giving your deliverables on time. Like I said earlier, if the deliverable is due Sunday at 12, you'll get it Sunday at 12. Don't break that trust by not giving them the thing unless you have a very legit excuse. Don't do it. Try not to do it. And then the quality, I think, is another really big factor that plays into the trustworthiness. Like, if you have a wavering quality standard, like maybe one blog you've written is super good, but then the next one is super bad, and the next one is average, and then like it's very hard for someone to trust you if you're like that. So make sure whatever you present to them is super high quality, because that will help them trust you back. And obviously you trust them, and then you multiply all of that into the interactions you've had. Obviously interactions could mean anything. It could be like over the period. Interactions could be over the phone call, it could be over an email, I mean, it could be over the entire tenure. But basically, I think this is how I would calculate, does my client trust me? Or when you have to answer that question of like, do I want to work with this client after this point? So I think it's really important to calculate that trustworthiness angle of it. Uh, Finally, I'm super excited because this is the first time that I'm actually uh, telling the world about this framework that I've been thinking about for a really, really long time. It's also partially the reason why I wanted to pick this topic with Tap Chief and do this webinar. I mean, we talked about a lot of different topics, but this one was specifically chosen because I wanted to show you a framework that I have built called the 5F framework, which goes to kind of finding your clients, building trust, running a successful business, and everything that goes into it. So first one is find your forte. That goes back into the thing that we talked about, the passion and the niche. Find what you're good at, find what you love doing, make work meaningful. I've said this over and over. Find your forte. I think that's the most important thing. Like, don't do things that don't make you happy, because work would just become work, and work is not always the best thing. Um, Second thing is move beyond your familiarity. So for example, like, when I talk about doing work, right? Challenges are also a really, really good thing in freelance. Like, pick up things that challenge you, pick up things that you're not used to, pick up things that challenge your status quo, pick up things where you'll need to learn something new to do that project. Quick example of that. So one of my clients last week asked me to pick a WordPress template for his website and obviously do the content, because that's what I'm doing. I have zero idea about WordPress, but I said, sure, I'll help you. What did I do? I reached out to a friend of mine and I called him up and I said, hey, listen, I need to pick a WordPress template. I know that you can do it. Can you give me a lowdown and teach me? I can't claim that I'm an expert now of picking up WordPress templates, but I'm pretty sure, like, if I get this sort of a client again, I will be super comfortable and I'll know where to go to find WordPress templates. Know what's feasible. At the end of the day, you are not working just for money, and your work also has to mean something, and you need to value yourself. When you freelance, it's super, super easy to get caught in the net of bargaining and not picking up the right client sometimes is an accident or a mistake. So know the balance between your time, your value, what you bring to the table, how you're contributing. Once you figure out your value and you know that it is feasible for you, only then pick up a client. Like, I think finding your forte and picking up your client are two very distinct things, and I hope the distinction is clear. The next one is know when to filter. So this goes back to the point that I was talking about saying no. It's extremely hard. Like, when you answer that feasible question, if it's yes or no, the next part is talking to your client and convincing them that you either want to do it or don't want to do it. Sometimes, you have to filter out clients, even if they're the best clients. Look at red flags, look at things that are going to tick off something and be like, this doesn't sound right. Or if your client is, for example, ready to pay you much more than what you expect, and says like, okay, give me the project and I'll give it back to you, I'll give you the money at the end of the project, say no, because that's when you know that you have to filter out that kind of a client. Filter out the work you want to do as well. That goes back into your passions, your niche, your forte. Don't just pick up projects because you're getting that inbound. That's not what you should be doing. You should be spending your time doing things that you are passionate about, that mean something to you and give your life meaning. And the last part and the best part is own your fabulousness. Like, each one of us are so awesome in our own ways. And the reason that you are freelancing is because you have that confidence to own it. So this is just a reminder that, like, whatever you've learned, whatever makes you you, own it. Like, be that person. Like, you don't have to be a different person on the phone. You don't have to be a different person on your LinkedIn. Be the same goddamn person. Like, I try really hard to do this. Like when you see me right now on a webinar versus what you read on my LinkedIn versus what you read on my Instagram, ideally, my goal is that each of it sounds the same. Doesn't matter what I'm talking about, but it sounds like me. It sounds like you can relate to me. If you don't, and if I feel like when I'm reading it that I don't relate to me, then I'm definitely not owning my fabulousness. So definitely as a last point, own it, because I mean that's what makes you you. That's what makes you special. And always remember that. That's all I have for today. This is all that I do. This is where I'm available. Please feel free to reach out to me. I would be super happy to have conversations after this and chat about anything that I talked about. In terms of clients, like I said, I mainly work across tech, SaaS, tech, mostly tech, SaaS, fast moving, emerging kind of clients. And kind of deliverables that I do are very varied. So I've done everything from websites to pitch decks to research papers uh, to let me think, research papers, blogs, thought leadership blogs, personal branding, employer branding. So I've worked across domains, mainly like because when I started out, I was looking for that challenge. I was looking for that thing that like, makes me want to get out of bed. And till today, I would always say yes to a challenge. Like if I had to pick between a very easy to go client or a challenging client, I would most likely pick the challenge because that's just the person I am. And like I said in the last slide, I want to own my fabulousness. So that's just me. I mean, I would be happy to have chats with anybody about any of the things we talked about. Anything that I do, from brand storytelling to comms to anything of that sort. I do see we have a couple of questions, so I'm just quickly going to stop the share for now and I'm going to get into the questions. So the question that I missed from the last one, which I said that I would answer, um, how do you know if your client is genuine when they approach a freelancer for a project? Um, so I think the first thing you need to do is ask some questions, talk about their business, ask them, why does this thing mean, something to you? Why do you want to do this? What's the bigger goal? Um, Ask them for proof. Like for example, one way to figure out if your client is interested in a deliverable is to be like, okay, cool. Like you want to get a blog done, can you show me some references? If they're not even willing to do that much for you, then they're probably not a right client for you. You asking for references is not an issue at all. You absolutely should if you are confused or lost. So just, I guess, pick up on red flags and figure out the things that you feel like they should be able to answer but are not able to for some reason. Like if something feels fishy, it most likely is fishy. Just keep that in mind. How do you find a client as per the freelancer's niche and expertise? Not sure I understand that question. But if a freelancer, I'm presuming a freelancer is asking me this, um, I would say be the goddamn best. Like own your fabulousness in that niche, in that expertise, and your clients will come to you, or you will be confident enough to reach out to potential clients. Just own your fabulousness, be the best. Pick whatever niche you like. It could be writing about plants to writing about technology, whatever it is, it does not matter. What I'm trying to say is just be the goddamn best at it, and make that the thing. If you want to be the goddamn best at it, it needs to obviously have meaning to your life, right? So I guess those are interlinked. If this question was from a freelancer, that's the simple hack of how to do it. um, the next question is it good to take up projects according to the niche and not something that a writer is good at? I mean, I would say experiment. There's no right or wrong answer to that question. I mean, sometimes maybe your niche is a good thing. Sometimes maybe you want to, you're sick of writing about movie reviews and now you want to write about film stars and their life. that's fine. I mean, uh, think of how much of a challenge you're willing to take. I guess that's what it comes down to. If you're willing and excited about something that's not in your niche, feel free to go out and experiment. I don't think there's any issue with that. I think I still, to a certain extent, I'm doing that. I mean, I don't particularly have a niche. Like, I don't say like, oh, I only do website copy, because that is way too niche for me right now. So I say, hey, I help startups and emerging companies with their brand storytelling. Obviously, when I get into the questions of what they're looking for, if it's like, hey, do you know how to build a Twitter community? And I honestly do not. I will just say no, and I'll say like I don't want to. I'm happy with whatever I know already, and I don't want to do it. So yeah, so just be open to experimenting. I don't think there's anything wrong. Um, is it important to start writing on LinkedIn and create and build your own network and get more clients? Absolutely. Like I said, 100% of my leads are on LinkedIn. 100%. I'm not even lying. I swear on my mom. Um, I very rarely do outreach, very rarely. Touch wood. I mean, it's such a blessing. But the only reason why there's this implicit trust in me and in what I do is because I've spent so much time on that platform. If you go to my LinkedIn, like you will know who I am, you'll know what my strengths are, you'll know my writing style, you'll know that I'm passionate about storytelling. uh, I've invested a lot of time in that platform. And absolutely, 100% of my clients come through LinkedIn. Now, after about 5 or 6 months of working, it started to become referrals. Um, I'm starting to see a little bit of referrals come in during this COVID period. So I mean, start on any channel. I mean, for me, it was LinkedIn. It kind of just fell in my lap. For you, it might be Twitter, it might be Instagram, it might be Telegram, whatever it is. Like, you really focus on the networking aspect of it along with the personal brand. Say, you're on Dribble and you want to build a brand. Showcase your best work, write amazing case studies, talk about how you did this, talk about the nitty gritties, talk about the problems. Build a brand that is relatable, that is authentic, that is trustworthy, and that will definitely help you get clients. So LinkedIn as a platform, yes, for me, but I've invested also 6 years, five, no, what year is it? 3 years, 3 years into it. So that's the easy answer. How to find clients during a crisis during COVID, especially when there's a situation like a slowdown and a job cut? That's a really good question. So unfortunately, I mean, I lost a lot of clients when COVID hit. Instantly marketing budgets were cut, and I'm not the only person who had this issue. I'm pretty sure other people did as well. I've heard of it as well. So I think, when you're finding clients during COVID, you have to be very, very empathetic. I am currently maybe doing a couple of projects that, will be hopefully starting, which are maybe not up to what I wanted to be paid, but the work is so meaningful that like it kind of, I was like, acha, theek hai, it's okay. Like, I like the work. It's okay. I understand that they may not have that sort of a budget right now. And you tell them that, and, be empathetic, be open to discussing a budget. Obviously, like, if you were thinking like 60,000 and they say 10,000, then don't do it, because then it means that they don't value you. But if you say 60 and they say 50, and if it's actually okay with you, just go for it. I would say don't lose out on that opportunity. And also another thing, which I have done with a client of mine, is pay a little bit every 2 weeks rather than a month end payment. So the way that we split it up is every 2 weeks, my client just sends me whatever money I invoice and blah blah blah, and that system goes. That's basically because he was like, I'm struggling with my finances, and I want to make sure that I have enough money for the work I'm giving you. And so what he does is like he gives me 2 weeks of work, he pays me for that. If he has work and is able to pay, then he gives me the next 2 weeks. So we work on a 2 week recurring basis. So be a little empathetic, be flexible. Um, How can I find clients for skill assessment software? Any hints to start off? Also, I'm having a database. Please guide. Uh, no idea. I'm probably not the best person to answer this. I really don't know. I would have answered if I did, but I really don't know how to do it. Um, it's not something that I work within. Um, cool. That brings us to the end of the questions that I have. If you have any other questions, please feel free to drop them in. I will be here for another like 5 to 10 minutes. Um, cool. Next question that came in is it important to research a client and know more about them? Yes, absolutely. Um, so basically, the reason you need to research your client is A, so that you know that the work you're putting in is meaningful. B, you know that they're legit. Um, C, the reason why you need to research them is also to know like their industry. Like if someone just came to you with a name and said, "Hey, TapChief is hiring," would you just say yes? The answer is probably no. You shouldn't say yes just based off a name. So basically, you can kind of do all of that research and learn from asking questions. So definitely research them. Like I said, freelancing is just as good as working. It's as much of you interviewing them as them interviewing you. So make sure that you do that, because that way you're more aware and you're more able to answer questions that might come up in conversations. Also, TapChief is so kind. They're doing a type form where you can place requests for consultations and gigs. So I believe someone from the Tap Chief team is going to post it in the chat box right now. Please feel free to use that to reach out to me. I would really, really appreciate it. Happy to have chats with anybody, like I said, um, based on anything we talked about or anything in relation to brand or brand storytelling. Cool. One last question is, do clients hesitate to hire first-time freelancers? Absolutely, 100%. Uh, the way that we are wired, right, is ideally to have someone working 9 to 5 in front of us. If that's not possible, then, now because of COVID, we're used to the virtual side. But again, when you think virtual in a job setting where you're available to this person for 8 hours a day versus freelancing, the equation is not the same, because when you're freelancing, you're not going to be just dealing with one client. You're going to be dealing with multiple clients, right? And the reason why people usually hesitate is, I think the main hesitations come down to like, will this person deliver? Will this person deliver on time? Will this person run away with my money? Which is why I always tell someone, like, if you don't want to send me the money and you don't want to like bank transfer it to me, that's okay. TapChief and I have a lovely relationship. I can, just list it on TapChief and we can go through that method. So, like they hesitate because they're not used to it. They hesitate because they're not sure if you will be able to live up to expectations, which is where the whole trust thing comes in. And building that trust becomes super, super important, because if there's a lack of trust, a lot of other things down the chain will break. So focus on building trust, focus on building that relationship as the basis of your relationship and not just transaction. I keep saying this over and over, because if you start thinking of your clients as, oh wow, this client just paid me 50 lakhs. Okay, cool. After this, we'll never talk again. Um, you are probably not doing client servicing right, and you're not optimizing and maximizing your customer lifetime value. So remember that, like, clients will constantly have needs. Just be available, be there, be top of mind. And this is also like, the client that I talked about during the presentation, that's off and on, and we've been working together for over a year, is because we have that trust. Like we just chat, like I just message them randomly being like, hey, how are you? Is everything okay? Blah, blah, blah. And because of that, I'm sort of just top of mind, right? So when they have something that they need me to write, they definitely come back to me and be like, hey, can you help us with this? So think of what things they hesitate with, and then think of how you can answer it or make their life easier or better. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's as much of you hiring them as them hiring you. All right, cool. I think that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you all for sticking around. I know it was kind of long, but I really hope all of you took away some really valuable lessons and learnings and things that you can implement in your day to day, whether you are freelancing currently or will be future freelancing. As always, please feel free to reach out. We'll be more than happy to have conversations after this. And also, if you want to talk to me for consultations or gigs, please fill out the type form. Take care. See you.